Imagine Havana, 1898. The night is calm, the sea gentle, and the tropical air heavy with salt and heat. On the deck of the USS Maine, sailors move quietly. Some laugh, some write letters by lantern light, some lean against the rail to watch the moon shimmer on the water. For them, it is another night of waiting in a foreign harbor. The mission seems simple: watch over Cuba as the island bleeds under Spanish rule, but destiny waits beneath the waves. Without warning, the stillness of the harbor erupts into fire. A deafening blast splits the night. Iron bends and screams, flames leap high, the decks shatter, men are hurled into black waters choked with smoke and debris. The Maine is ripped apart in an instant. 266 sailors vanish in the explosion. By dawn, the harbor is filled with twisted steel and floating bodies. Across America, newspapers thunder their verdict. Remember the Maine. To hell with Spain. No proof is offered, no trial is held, but the nation demands vengeance. Yet the question lingers. Was Spain guilty? Or was the Maine's destruction an accident? Or worse, a convenient spark for those who hungered for war? History still cannot agree, but the voices calling for war were too loud to silence. To understand how the explosion became empire, we must look back. Spain had once ruled half the world. Gold from the Americas, spices from Asia, power overseas and continents. But by the late 1800s, Spain was a shadow of its past. Only a few colonies remained: Puerto Rico, Guam, the Philippines, and the island closest to America's shores, Cuba. Cuba was restless. Rebellion had burned for decades. Farmers, rebels, poets, and fighters had all risen against Spanish power. They had been crushed again and again. Villages torched, civilians herded into camps, thousands dead from starvation and disease. Yet still, Cubans would not surrender. The dream of independence burned in every field and mountain America watched. Politicians spoke of Cuban freedom, businessmen calculated profits, and ordinary citizens felt sympathy when they read the shocking stories in the press. Stories of cruelty, suffering, executions, and starvation. But not all stories were true. Many were exaggerated. Some were invented. This was the age of yellow journalism. William Randolph Hearst and Joseph Pulitzer fought for readers, and the war for circulation turned into a war of words. Headlines screamed of atrocities. Paintings showed brutalities. Stories spread that inflamed public opinion. Hearst, hungry for conflict, once told an artist in Cuba, "You furnish the pictures, I'll furnish the war." And so the war came. President William McKinley resisted at first. He knew what war meant. He had worn the uniform in the Civil War and seen the slaughter. He wanted peace, but peace was fragile, and the Maine's explosion shattered it. By April 1898, Congress declared war on Spain. America's splendid little war had begun. The world scoffed at first. The United States was untested, its army small, its navy young. Spain had centuries of experience in battle. But what unfolded in the months that followed shocked the globe. The first strike did not fall in Cuba. It fell across the ocean in the Philippines. Commodore George Dewey led his fleet into Manila Bay at dawn on May 1st, 1898. Spanish ships waited, but their guns were old, their hulls weak. Dewey turned calmly to his captain and spoke the words that would echo in legend. "You may fire when ready, Gridley." American guns roared. Shells tore through the Spanish fleet. Fire consumed the bay. By sunrise, every Spanish ship was wrecked, burning, or sinking. Dewey had not lost a single vessel. News raced back across the ocean. Spain's Pacific fleet was gone in a single morning. The Philippines, once a distant colony, now lay open to American hands. But the heart of the war still beat in Cuba. American soldiers landed in the sweltering heat. They were poorly supplied, dressed in heavy wool uniforms meant for winter, not the tropics. Disease stalked them. More would die from yellow fever, malaria, and dysentery than from bullets. But they fought on. Among them rode a volunteer cavalry unit unlike any other. They called themselves the Rough Riders. They were cowboys, college athletes, hunters, Native Americans, and adventurers, united under one man, Theodore Roosevelt. And once a frail child, Roosevelt had rebuilt himself into a figure of iron will. Now he came to Cuba, hungry for battle. On July 1st, 1898, Roosevelt and his men faced San Juan Hill. The slopes were steep, the enemy entrenched, the air alive with whistling bullets. Men dropped in the tall grass, but still they climbed. African-American regiments, the Buffalo Soldiers, charged beside them, their courage carrying the line forward. Shot and shell ripped the earth, but still they pushed upward. When the smoke cleared, the hill was theirs. Roosevelt's name became legend. He would ride the memory of that charge all the way to the White House. But the cost was written in blood upon the slopes. Spain's last chance was its fleet trapped in Santiago Harbor. On July 3rd, the Spanish ships made a desperate dash for freedom. The American Navy closed in, guns blazing. Smoke covered the sea, ships caught fire, steel cracked, crews abandoned sinking decks. By sunset, every Spanish ship was sunk or captured. Spain's empire in the Americas was finished. By August, the war was over. Spain sued for peace. The Treaty of Paris redrew the map. Cuba was declared independent, but America remained on the island, shaping its future through laws and bases. Puerto Rico became American territory. Guam became American territory. And in the Philippines, where rebels had dreamed of liberty, the United States decided to stay. The Filipinos who had welcomed American troops as allies now found themselves betrayed. They rose again, this time against their former partners. The Philippine-American War began, a brutal conflict of ambushes, executions, and civilian suffering. Tens of thousands died. It lasted years, far longer and bloodier than the Spanish-American War itself. So what was the Spanish-American War? A war of liberation? Or the moment America began its own empire? Spain's centuries of dominance collapsed in just 113 days. But in those days, the United States crossed a line it could never uncross. It became a power with territories across oceans, its flag raised in distant lands, its voice suddenly global. The war was short. The consequences were not. History remembers the heroes, Dewey in Manila, Roosevelt at San Juan, the Rough Riders, the Buffalo Soldiers, the sailors of the Maine. But it also remembers the shadows, the lies of yellow journalism, the hunger for expansion, the betrayal of promises made in the name of freedom. Every empire begins with a story. Every story hides its cost. The Maine lies silent at the bottom of Havana Harbor. But the echoes of 1898 still shape the world today.